We are continuing our live coverage of a verdict in the Michael Jackson case. About half an hour ago, maybe 40 minutes ago, the court announced that the jurors had reached a verdict. The parties, Michael Jackson, the alternate jurors, were given an hour to come to the courthouse. This is a live picture of the cars that are driving Michael Jackson. Of course, Michael Jackson in one car, his team in the other cars. I am told that the alternate jurors have already arrived at the courthouse. Again, these are the jurors who did not get to deliberate this case, whose opinion ended up mattering not at all. And yet they are here to watch this verdict be announced. This judge announced to them as they were leaving that they were invited to return to watch the verdict when it happened. I'm joined now by criminal defense attorney Ron Richards, who knows Michael Jackson's lawyer very well, has been watching this case closely since it began. Ron, if you're the defense team now, based on the length of deliberation and on the types of readbacks they've asked for, on the fact that they've asked a number of questions Friday and today, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling very nervous right now, Dan, because these readbacks, after you have these readbacks and then there's a quick verdict, a lot of times that means that the struggle or the differences amongst the jurors has been reconciled, and now they're ready to make a decision. And I also heard unconfirmed that there was some questions that the defense didn't want to be read to the public, and all this makes me a little nervous for the defense right now.
And Ron, you are someone who has been confident throughout this case about the fact that Michael Jackson was going to be acquitted, right?
Yeah, I've been confident. I watched the accuser testify in this case, and I've been confident that the prosecution really has had trouble meeting their burden in a lot of areas. But as we know, when the case winded down, it became a much closer case, and I think that if this jury was totally convinced that the accuser was a liar, these deliberations wouldn't have dragged out into this amount of time. I mean, I was expecting maybe a hung jury. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Jackson's convicted on some of these counts.
Yeah, I think that the mood at the courthouse moved quite a bit from the beginning of this case, when I think many came in saying there's no way Michael Jackson's going to be convicted, to the end of this case, when I think many here at the courthouse thought it was more likely that Jackson would be convicted than not. You see his team, motorcade if you will, stuck behind a car as they try to come to the courthouse. It seems they left a little bit late, and so the reading of the verdict will probably occur a little bit late as well, but they are coming. This as they are heading to the verdict to hear Michael Jackson's fate. And again, this can't be underestimated. This can't be understated. It's probably the better way to say it. This could be Michael Jackson's last drive of freedom. If Michael Jackson is convicted of all of the charges that he is facing, and this jury has reached unanimous verdicts, it appears, on all of the counts, most people believe that Michael Jackson would be taken into custody immediately. And so there you see the caravan of cars coming to the courthouse for the verdict to be read. Jim Thomas, you are down there only feet away from where the Michael Jackson fans have gathered. After I ask you this question, I'm going to turn around to take a look at you to see what it looks like down there. But give us a sense of how many fans have amassed, have more people come. This is not a group of people who seem confident. This is a team of people who seem, as we all are, a bit apprehensive about what this verdict will be.
What's the word?
Well, they are, but they're absolutely confident in his innocence. At least that's what they're showing and what they're yelling. Right now, it's gone quiet for a couple of moments, but it was really loud here a few minutes ago. I think they're nervous, as is everybody. And I'd like to add a little bit on what Ron Richards said about the defense being nervous. I actually talked to my prosecution source about 5 minutes ago and said, how do you feel? He says, we don't know. There were questions that went both ways, and they're not certain how this thing is going to come out. So that just adds a little more drama, I think, to what this verdict is going to be.
And I can tell you, from having covered hundreds and hundreds of trials, that most of the time we have a pretty good sense when the jury reaches a verdict of what they're going to do. That doesn't mean we get it right every time, but it means that in the vast majority of cases, you have a very good sense as to what they're going to do. That is not the case here. This case could go either way. Michael Jackson could walk out of that courthouse a free man and decide to do another dance on his SUV, or Michael Jackson could be put into cuffs and taken away to the Santa Barbara County Jail within the next hour. Again, you are watching our live coverage of a verdict in the Michael Jackson case. You see there the car that presumably is carrying Michael Jackson speeding towards the courthouse. And there is a motorcade of cars. Stacey Brown pointing out to us that all of Michael Jackson's family members have been there at Neverland with him, waiting for this verdict to be read. Let me do this. I'm going to go through the verdict form a bit as to exactly what these jurors are going to decide. This, as we wait for the verdict, as the fans amass here at the courthouse, as the Jackson team scurries to arrive on time, as that verdict is going to be read, although most believe they will not be able to make it here in time for a 1:30 Pacific time reading of the verdict. As a result, the judge, I am certain, will delay it until they arrive. We will have live audio, meaning you will hear the verdict as it is read. You all will be able to hear it at exactly the same time as we can hear it, and we, of course, will be covering that live here on MSNBC. So, some of the questions that you're going to hear from the jurors. We, the jury, in the above entitled case, they are going to either find Michael Jackson guilty or not guilty of conspiracy. If they do find him guilty of conspiracy, they are going to be asked, do you believe that he conspired to engage in child abduction, found or not found? False imprisonment, found or not found? Extortion, found or not found? And the sentences differ depending on which of the conspiracies he is found guilty of. If he's found guilty of all of them, the sentence, of course, increases. There is a maximum sentence of up to 8 years for the conspiracy charge, and there would be additional sentences of approximately 2 years if he was convicted of each of the additional ones as well. But again, it depends on which of those charges he is found guilty of. Then they go on. Guilty or not guilty with regard to committing a lewd act upon a child. And then again, if they find him guilty, they have to answer another question. And that is that the victim of the crime was under the age of 14 at the time. That's almost certain to be found if they found him guilty. Defendant had substantial sexual contact with the victim at the time the crime was committed. That means how much did he do? And under the law, if Michael Jackson did what this boy claims he did, there was substantial contact, and as a result, parole would not be an option, meaning Michael Jackson would have to serve time if he is convicted of any of the lewd acts with substantial sexual contact. Then Michael Jackson is serving time. Count 6 is a lewd act, the attempted commission of a lewd act upon a child. And then from there, they would go to the alcohol-related charges of, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty or not guilty of administering an intoxicating agent to assist in the commission of a felony. That would mean the molestation of a child. If they say not guilty there, they go to a lesser charge, which would just be a misdemeanor count of serving alcohol, meaning they have a choice. Felony would mean served alcohol to a child with the intent to molest. Misdemeanor would say not guilty of that, just guilty of serving alcohol to a child, but no evidence, we believe, beyond a reasonable doubt, that he did it with the intent to molest. Some people believe that could be a compromise. I'll tell you, if that is the verdict, that would be a huge victory for Michael Jackson. Michael Cardoza joins us now as well, the criminal defense attorney who has also been following this case closely. All right, Michael, I've asked Prosecutor Susan Filan, I've asked defense attorney Ron Richards how they would be feeling right now as the prosecutor, as the defense. Both have said nervous, very nervous. You're a former prosecutor, now a defense attorney. How would you be feeling?
I tell you feel both no matter what side you're on. I mean, as a DA, I felt the same as a defense. I'll tell you what, your blood pressure goes up to about 160. you're nervous, your heart's in your throat.